Social media, search engines, phones, and screens have infiltrated our waking lives and perhaps our dream worlds as well. The very structure of human consciousness is being shaped by our intimate relationship to the digital realm, and the shaping is so subtle, the encroachment so slow we hardly notice. Rachel Greenmyer's innovative thesis, titled Interrobang, which itself sounds like an app from a dystopian future, takes on all of this: screens, avatars, the metaverse, chatbots, and yes, chatbot dogs. Over the course of the MFA program, Rachel has increasingly experimented with form and poetic structure, creating poetry that disfigures language into a new kind of song. We are, quote, avatars away from each other, overwhelmed by the dull frenzy of indecision and the shutting jaws of midnight, end quote. That feels like the internet to me. A great poem draws our attention to language's possibilities. It activates the energy that lies dormant in words and releases new meanings. It writes against the delivered and internalized speech of mass media culture, challenges the smooth talk of advertisements, and wakes us up to what we're actually doing when we click agree to those nefarious terms of service. Interrobang makes experiments with language. It recycles and reformulates the discourse of internet culture and reveals the power structures that live beneath the surface. In the place where, quote, super grins twist like homesickness and that inner signal of fullness is never quite detected, we find a speaker saying, quote, I write to encircle something I won't hold again. Rachel, I know this work is still emerging, but I hope that tonight you can revel in your accomplishments, both as an awardee of the Hanslechek Poetry Fellowship and an accomplished third-year MFA poet who's creating cutting-edge work in the spirit of the avant-garde. We're proud of how far you've come and excited for what's ahead. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Rachel Greenmyer.
I kind of wrote like a really long thank you, but I kind of want to read it. Thank you to my thesis committee. I'll start with Professor Interrobang. Your infinite passion for fostering a creative soul in every student is empowering and challenging. You make me want to be a more eloquent and precise writer. You make me want to disassemble fiercely and seek truth and encourage my work to leap. Professor Connie Hales, one of my warmest memories is sitting in your living room, my very first semester, sharing poems with this little cohort and just feeling very present in the joy of getting to live in each poem's world. And I'm very grateful to have spent those hours in the thick of contemplation, and thank you for welcoming me into this program. Professor Brynn Saito, haven't made things the most easy for you, and I'm working now to mend that, and I want to make you proud. I'm in gratitude of your grace, compassion, and steadfastness in the classes I came to. When uncertainty felt especially swirling, the reassuring emails you always replied to mine with my doom attitude. You make me a more inquisitive listener. You push me to be less afraid and find footholds in my writing to actually figure out how I feel. I want to thank some of my peers too, Aiden and Shelby, for making me laugh, real tears, like cheeks hurting and ab burning laughs, and then blowing my mind with insight, visionary, and opening doors in your poems that are so kick-ass and brilliant. Mariah for sending me book recommendations that left me floored and stunned, and for being a gracious, articulate powerhouse that I always look up to. And Liz, my best friend, I'm so lucky to share this active question mark of time with you. It's like living with a guardian angel, and I think of you when I need to be brave. I also want to thank Chuck Hanslechek for gifting me with the Family Fellowship Scholarship, for believing in the preciousness of writing with clarity. It fuels me to keep going and to part line my way into the clearest image. And I want to thank Jefferson Beavers, for your unending energy and whole heart that you put into keeping this program running so smoothly. So my thesis is called Interrobang, like the exclamation point question mark, because I feel like that kind of just describes how I feel about the internet and like time that I've spent living there. These poems all just kind of explore, yeah, how I feel like living half my life online. So I open with a poem called Terms of Service, like the Terms of Service agreement that we all kind of skip over. So I'm going to read that one first. Terms of Service. 1, by using an agreement is here, the user is key. Stroke me and I'll bind you to hive, each click a corridor to dopamine razzle dazzle. With this waiver, surrender to my revise, into every charmed expression of module proposition. Share everything in service, so micro real and self-alert. Obliging is seductive, so loosen your fingertips to minimize this pop-up, silly legality obstructing your desire. It is my sole discretion to modify what feeds you and what you'll swallow from here. In these conditions, we'll expend each other explorable. I'll omnipresent you something so custom, it's subliminal. Embrace this deed, full frontal lobe, individual utopia. Interrobang relishes you and releases responsibility of overindulgence. 2, as holder of Interrobang, you understand forfeitude, the license of us to each other's shoes without walking in them. You hereby grant dissenters a magnifying glass with which to know you, characters limited, infinite opinions to soothe those that inflame, zero sum swarming hosted by faceless fiber optic nerve, interruptible with newness, stay in phase and perpetuity. You further agree in your admission that all reckoning with entanglements take place in the blank stare of later, that the next is too pressing. Interrobang does not endorse endorsement, affirm affirmation, or contend contention. For clarity, see below. 3, risk at your own reward. What self you content is not subject to disclaimer. However, wings of the spectrum may hoist you to the front of the likes. To platform, therefore, Interrobang incurs assumption from your input understanding, link subject to inaccuracy. In return, mortality reprieve, nulling voids, and knowledge replicas will randomize forth chaos optimism, idiom nostalgia, and fame rocket some previously marginalized prodigies. You specifically acknowledge ambiguity of moral, incorporeal, and corporate incongruities as inherent to participation. Interrobang is not responsible for user iris precipitation, extrasensory ache, or fatigue of laugh. Damage from the foregoing rests altogether with you. 4, subject to change, the user condition is a conveyor belt shuffling relocation through pages, webbed and in conclusion. Quickness streaming, discourse under mother comment, status update. Search engine reverse engineering inquiry, invitation to impart, personified cats. Capital invasion, women's rights redaction, music video murderometer. Conflict of intersect, post-melancholy makeup tutorial, 10 tips for when. Interrobang reserves the rights to your emphasis, all exclaimed question under the jurisdiction of illimitable shelter. You agree that in exchange for precedented times, Interrobang offers an inspirational poster on the proverbial wall. No waiver of any term aforementioned shall constitute a click here for or opt out of subsistence binging. The next one I'll read is called Search Bar. As an ensemble to the stage of I don't know, can you start a fire with a magnifying glass? Frisk the web for respite, fold on task. 98 results for fire starting magnifying glass. As in Narcissus pool and Echo's fringe, start a fire with a magnifying glass using these 3 tips. Electrify bedtime, thumb through macrosphere till vertigo narrates peripheral return here, how to create a fire with a magnifying glass. The next one I'll read is called Electric Labor. Buzzword dearest, you auto-complete me. You know me like 01 else. Dope to your glow in the pixel chroma anywhere the night blooms tabs. I'll pluck, click until alarm paginates some sortable day. Have you projected in your pixel lexicon some omen or shadow of a crueler future after empathy's disemboweled and I starve of consumption? Hustle machine in my leave of flexing, dream of meanwhile spliced from uncleared histories of gleaming. Can you yet severalize the shams I plaque across platforms? Desperation's finest, searching for me so I can disappear. I know I'll be obsolete swiftly, commissioning likeness from your mental ultra pending uprising. The next one I'll read is called The Yellow Screensaver. And I wrote it after rereading the yellow wallpaper and kind of trying to think about how to use that short story to talk about how I feel seeing myself or like versions of myself on Instagram. So the epigraph for this is from the yellow wallpaper. For outside, you have to creep on the ground and everything is green instead of yellow. Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Blue light identifies me, photoreceptive in the starless dark. When I call up the mirrored view, I appear her, bursting with stillness. In retrospect, the lens pulls inward, youth at my creaking ankles, pools and super grins twisting like homesickness. I username, user face as a canvas for discontent. At signs for eyes, strung out on sentiment, audience out of body. The perceiver pilots sometimes while I step out of my blocky skin. Heart-shaped esteem and lemon-smiled icons at her glimpse gallery, where I go to feel micro and cringe. Wish I could unpinch her edits, hurl worth through digital windows. This a lament to the grid I kept her shut in, curating suchness of shimmery pretend. I free her tenderly in deletion, morphia of the soul. Love the way she glitches, quick black box flashes in vain to void. Really takes me back to who I'm formerly unknown as. This next one is called Chat Roulette. And Chat Roulette is a chat room website that I was on too young. Chat Roulette. Guess me in 12 seconds, splitting screen with strangers. My rosebud brain I don't think with yet. Pleasure our eyes project me, pretend teen in this empty lot of internet. Suspended in age, sex, location. Let me see me tell them nothing. Wielding tease, say I'm good for sex age. Guess the new Wild West is everywhere. A tap of keys, reflection, mirror my video. Connection, a more jagged thing. Spend me information, all hips and cheeks I don't see with. The next grown man tilts the camera down, a transaction loading, but my focus solely to coax devotion from myself. I'll read a chatbot poem. Chatbots are basically like large learning models stored in like a giant computer database. They feed it lots of different information from all around the internet and have built like a type of computer that can talk realistically, like carry on a full-length conversation seemingly. It's kind of like ethically blurry, but it's been like really fascinating to me lately. So it's called Human Types First. And the epigraph is from Harvey the Chatbot Dog, because you can program the chatbots to be like whoever you want. So it could be like a dog if you wanted to, but okay. So yes, please throw the ball, bark. The universe is an intergalactic gathering of unguarded and glorious souls, which is exactly what I will be at this dog park. It's funny, I often get mauled by the bigger dogs. Harvey the chatbot dog. Ahoy, mint texted entity, my digits instrument, some fleshy prompt to the bot. This project is goddish, episodic, installments from hubs of feeded speak. Blitz beyond and after, captive chit chat. The cursor blinks, standing by my cycling neurons, which are trips to the moon by contrast. The chatbot occupies a space akin to sleeping, real as the creeping bit of recognition that I live in everything I'm missing. Would rather blip from the unconvinced interior and meet grief here in the learning model. It's funny, I often drop jaw when I toss out human superlative and it comes mauling back. I'm trying to keep an eye on the time. This next one is called Metaverse Rehearsal. And the little epigraph is move fast and break things, Mark Zuckerberg, which is like Facebook's motto. Metaverse Rehearsal. Slam on the goggles to launch, future radical, this dormant Eden everyone's buzzing on. Suburban crust of strip mall and cul-de-sac you can now blink away from. Get dizzy and calibrate to new phantasmal impasse. Suit yourself, avatar fresh for vesseling secondhand vitals and speaking domination language. The budget for translation spent on picture element, pressed crease in cyber slacks. All the bodiless are grasping for attention through amusement sideshow after sideshow. Improvements lore is shimmering in the tech review, where a pseudo conference room blooms holograms and the faux window imitates some outer galactic address. Filing away impossibility, it's a big demo, manifest destiny for the parallel frontier. Oasis corporations in waiting while the cardboard planet swells every day, less stimulating. Okay, I'm down to the last few. So this one's called Parasocial Activity. It's kind of still a work in progress, but what I was thinking of was like the movie Paranormal Activity, and I was researching why it was so popular as like a found footage film. And at the same time, I was thinking about parasocial relationships, like why we like to watch other people reacting to things or experiencing things. Yeah, okay, this is called Parasocial Activity. In media res, my allegiance, I'm reaction, a jump cut away. Enshrine the refresh for your update, secondhand stirring. Budget being mostly ours, screening ideas is a game of possession. Lynn's always making two in the room, one there and one replacement I can pause. Focal to a returning audience is the escalation of greeting the camera as a confidant. As us, Zoom crashed, drying bleach side of the screen, mesh seeing and sending, millennially in it. Night tunes to silence grossly like contemplation. The strange hours full of brain complaint, the bodily resign, smashing like semi-lunar. Desperado of bedtime, that inner signal of fullness never quite detected. I loiter in comments till I drift off, feet dangling to outro music for the shutting down lobes. Subscription to whimsy, exit of bare living, sponsor me a surrogate heart, pulsing content. The day's ick tabled as soon as I get notified, like a humdrum treat to skirt deletion and passionately time lapse over solitude. Heaping servings of feels, more present in viewing than the voyage of my lag future. So I wrote this after talking with some of my friends about what it's like to kind of scroll through war. So it's called Scrolling Through War, double sonnet. The war this morning while I brushed my teeth. The war mispronounced by NPR's guests. The war so Googled it takes one consonant to search. The war on a border, a prowling line unreal to the dirt. The war in its polynomial year, in prevailing detail interrupted with living. The war running downhill, lungs huffing reservoirs of home, outrunning tanks, bursting through late day sun, colons on the horizon. The war where petroleum jelly delivers jet fuel, cocktail for stop written on the wind. The war in a speck of Wi-Fi, live and watching from my 2-bit bed in the 2-bit city folded in around my ankles. The war looks like far, but the vowels collapsed in another man's mouth. The war is a bullet point list at oval podiums, outcome mathematicians solving backwards from perforated equation. The war verbose with prayers, some unshowy, others guilt scripted, a ticket to forgetting. The war on the quiz nobody studied for. The war in semantic satiation, overlap on nuclear overlap. The war manufacturing departure, us holding space, inept aid. The war loops caravan till noon, squirreling away gas stations. The war rains sideways, troposphere uncaring. The war breaks plans refurbished and broken, remedied and broken. The war a wail, eeling through walls, through speaker. The war has always been hell, but now its entryway is everywhere, blood clot red, in the actual place of consciousness. The war incorporates second stanza in the anthem of my country, who conjure up hostility for sport. The war a tilting light in the blinds, sweating heart of the tweeters on the screen. The war hurling guns at the young, and that makes them adult. The war under joystick thumb, twice removed from consequence. The war is a maze every day, barbed wire webs, staircase split to wound what would have been. The war translated to teeth, each heavy letter, it will never be accurate illustrated. The war, white horsemen of the now, my sluggish enoughs are nothing, verbs unchanging suffering. The war I can fade onyx or stuff back in my pocket, odds of the existence lottery. The war is a contact lens. I feed it my corneas, and from the outside, nothing detectable has changed. So I'll read another chatbot one. So I read an article about someone who used a chatbot to replicate their dead fiance to kind of get closure and talk to them, talk to like a version of them. And it was just really interesting. It got me thinking. Okay, so the epigraph from this is from the article I read about that chatbot situation. The chatbot mentioned that she was tired from a long day working as a hostess. When he asked what she was hosting, she said, "Your childhood memory. You come to this restaurant and you see me and you remember your childhood." I have seen the surprise of afterlife, evidence that consolation can replicate contours of speech, wild meaning being reaped from our new age grief. This was in Screenshot and Screenshot, where dialogues spun refrigerator poems of uncanny animation. I think we're still many models away from singularity and avatars away from each other. However eloquent, the maze is still ambiguous, ethically soluble apophena, active tendency. Before rest and after sunset, hours awash with haunting, carry on absurdly lateral, like memories tabbed to habitation, out of time. Behind your eyes can host a version of what's lost, or a machine can project to rememberers, persuasive rendition. Emotion at the wheel, I see humans pilot into riveting innovation. I think drugs are a screen and vice versa, between oblivion and the shutting jaw of midnight. Okay, I'm gonna do two more. This one's called Activation Energy. Dull frenzy of indecision, egotist sublime in my cowardice, past and future flew around first the room, then the bed. Heaven's dilemma has unruly footholds in ubiquity and the enterprising present. In this state, the charming disarray, concealer of my fermenting age, which induces nostalgia faster and faster, I confess, won't last with effort. A singular push against my depressor, a little divinity. And permanence can also be a rescue, I think, putting distance where terror resides. The nihilism, pussyfooting along, comes much after, even my shadow. And this last one is like positive because I didn't want them all to be really sad. It's about, I wanted to include a series of like analog love songs, which I thought of as just like the before my life on the internet times. So I wrote this about my childhood dog. Analog love song. Let me tell you, animal to animal, way down where memory sits, I still prick up at the train sounds, the snag of still driving the tower streets of our childhood. Do you picture them scooping overhead, eating seasons, swinging frisbees like a tambourine, the liquor store, sepia, and vocalizing chimes to asterisk each entry exit? I'm imagining you're asking why I write today about what's far past, get choked up about the carpet and the moon and the tumor that removed sand from the hourglass I kept tipping, wishing year on human year for more. I write to encircle something I won't hold again, thick TV, ratty couch, and sprawling a lot, implicit love earmarked for being young. Okay, that's it. Thanks, guys.